everyone, this is Tamara from shelfaddiction.com and welcome to episode 123. Tonight on Book Chat, I am interviewing author AC Author. To date, she has written several genres, including young adult paranormal, written as artist author, erotic romance, written as Sapphire Blue, small town contemporary romance, written as Lacey Baker, and a heart-stopping murder mystery series titled Rumors, a central contemporary romance series following the life and loves of the Donovan family, and sexy paranormal series including The Shadow Shifters and Lure of the Lycans, all written as AC Author. Today I'll be chatting with AC about her writing, Coastal Magic Convention, and more. Once a month through February, I'll be exclusively chatting with some of the authors that will be in attendance at Coastal Magic Convention located in Daytona Beach, Florida in February 2018. Tickets are still available, but quantities are limited, so grab yours now. For those of you that want to know more, I have a link below in the show notes, or you can go to coastalmagicconvention.com. If you enjoyed today's episode, please like and share it. Show your support by rating the podcast and leaving a positive review on iTunes or wherever you listen to podcasts. The podcast can also be found on the Spreaker app, YouTube, Google Play Music, the Stitcher app, and more. If you'd like to email in feedback or questions, feel free to reach out to me at info@shelfaddiction.com, or you can call in and leave an internet voice message on SpeakPipe. I look forward to hearing from you. The link is below in the show notes. Hey AC, thank you so much for joining me today. How are you doing?
I'm good. Thank you for having me today.
Absolutely. I'm really excited to talk about your book. So you ready to just jump to it?
I'm ready to jump right in.
Okay, before we start with your series and your book, I always like to ask what you're reading right now. So do you have anything on your reading list that you're enjoying at the moment?
I am. Usually when I'm writing a book, I like to read in that same genre just to, keep my mind wrapped around what's expected, what readers expect from those types of books. So right now I'm reading Wake a Sleeping Tiger by Laura Lee. Mm-hmm. And I'm loving it.
I haven't heard of that. So what's that about? Real quick.
That is her latest book, and she has this Breeds series, which is they're not really shapeshifters because they don't really shift. They remind me more of werewolves because even though they're different species, they're lions and Bengal tigers and coyotes, but they just take on all of the traits of the animal. Like they were bred to have the different traits of all of these different animals. And I don't know what number in the series this is. Maybe something like 16, 17 or something like that. But this particular breed genetics were recessed. So I'm finding it really interesting to watch him sort of become a breed as an adult. And then this human woman is actually bringing the breed out in him. So it's really cool so far.
Wow. Okay. So obviously you like reading about shifters. Would you say that you've read or maybe read other series or authors that kind of influenced your writing style to write about paranormal shifters?
Oh, definitely. Definitely. Laura Lee, Christine Feehan. I loved the way that they made it real for me. I've tried a lot of different books, and I was never really into the vampires, but there was just something about shapeshifters and the way that both of those authors were able to, like I said, make it seem real. Like this is a definite possibility to me. I think I have a better chance of walking up to someone who looks just like a human, but is secretly a shapeshifter, than I have to walking up to a vampire.
Right. That's true, I think. Especially since they look regular day to day.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know which one is better, but I mean, I just think that one just seems a little more realistic to me.
So do you have like any favorite authors? So like, let's say there's someone that's maybe new to reading about shifters in general. Maybe let's just say outside of the regular werewolf situation. Do you have any authors that you recommend people to read outside of yourself, of course?
Kate Douglas is really good. She has a Wolf Tales series, and it dates back a while to when Kensington Publishing had a line called Aphrodisia, and she started the Wolf Tales series, and they are really, really good.
Mm.
So I would definitely tell someone new to shifters to check that out.
Okay, awesome. So you've been writing a while. You have quite a few books under your belt. Can you tell us a little bit about what inspired you to start writing?
So I've always loved reading. I'm a bit of a control freak, and don't tell anybody that I admitted that to you.
Okay.
But just a little bit of a control freak. And so I would read stories, but I would always, at the end, just jot down what I would have done differently. Like I always had like an alternate ending. She should have done this. He could have said this and it would have been better. And for a long time, it was just my little thing, just what I did after I read a book. When I was in 10th grade, my history teacher had a writing contest. And you had to write about your favorite teacher. And it was so goofy because the prize was just you had lunch with your favorite teacher. And who wants to have lunch with their teacher?
Right.
Especially in high school. So, like, really, a lot of people didn't participate. But I was like, what? I don't have anything to lose. Let me just go ahead. So I wrote about my history teacher, and I actually won. And I tell myself, at first I was all excited. I was like, yeah, I won. But yeah, I probably won because there were only like 5 entries, so you didn't have a whole lot to choose from. But because I won, that gave me like a little bit of confidence because I was like, well, maybe I do write pretty good. Maybe, somebody likes what I'm writing. So I started writing my own little stories, but I didn't really show them to anybody at that time until after I got out of high school, and I had a coworker. And she was a receptionist, and I was a legal secretary, so I would sit in the back. And she would always say, I'm so bored up here. Give me something to do. And because I was writing the stories and printing them out, the papers on her desk looked like she was doing work. Because clearly she couldn't sit at the front desk and have a book. So I would get to her, and she would call back, okay, where are the next pages? What happens next? Hurry up. You have to write faster. And I was like,
That's awesome.
She really likes this. And she ended up, I wrote a whole book, and she read the whole book. And then one day my husband came to pick me up, and she's like, did you know she could write books? And he was like, no. And I said, it was nothing. It was just, I was just passing the time. And he said, well, let me read it. And he read parts of it, and he was all interested. And I'm like, now if he's interested, might be something here. But still, it was just a hobby. For years, it was just a hobby. Until my oldest daughter was sick, and I had to stop working to stay home with her. And while she was with her tutor, I would write. And I happened to come across on the internet one day another publishing company. And I was like, I wonder if I can just send this in. I didn't know anything about the industry. I was like, maybe I'll just send it and see what they say. And it was a rejection, of course. I'm not that lucky at the first try I get it. But it was a really good rejection. They were like, it was really good, but you need to work on this, this, and this. So I just kept working on it. And like the next year, I did actually get a call and an offer for a contract.
Wow.
I mean, it was a crappy offer, but I took it because, it's the first
It was the first one, yeah.
Right. And so I've just been writing ever since then.
Oh, that's amazing. That's a cool story. I mean, it fits you. You love writing about this genre. So yours is paranormal, like Shifters.
Right.
Do you think that yours are heavy romance as well, like paranormal romance, or are yours a little bit hotter or not so much at all?
It's definitely, I'm not... In the beginning, when I planned them, I wanted them to be heavy romance because I write contemporary romance too. So I knew that the romance would be in there. But as I've gotten into this world, I feel like the plot kind of became more of a focus than just the romance. So the romance is there, I would say 45%.
Okay.
And it's really steamy. When it's there, it's there. They're all about it when it's there. But the plot, in every story that I do, the plot just grows more and more. So I want to be honest and say it's about 45% romance.
Okay. And obviously you said it was kind of steamy. So do you think it touches erotica a little bit or not quite there?
Oh, yeah, it does.
Okay.
It jumps right on over to erotica.
Okay, so it's full adult reads.
Yes, most definitely.
Okay. So do do your paranormal series touch any other genres? You know how sometimes you could have other themes that are so heavy that they could be considered almost a genre mash.
I don't think so. I think, well, in carrying it to, so in the books that I'll be doing from this point on, they may lean a little into fantasy, just based on some of the new characters that I'll be introducing. So they may have like a fantasy element to it. They definitely have mythology to it.
That's cool. So today we're going to be talking about A Lion's Heart, but let's first talk a little bit about the books that led into this book so that we kind of know where we're at.
Okay.
Do you mind sharing a little bit about the series overall?
So the series overall started, I knew that I wanted to do segments in this shifter world. I wanted to show what I call the awakening. And that's the first 3 books in the series. And what that does is it just introduces you to these shifters and the Gunji rainforest where they originated from. And it just shows you how they are attempting to set up a democracy in the human world. You know, they have human jobs like lawyers and IT techs and construction workers, and they're all trying to be accepted in the human world, but still knowing that they're different. So they're trying to organize themselves so that they have their democracy, but that they're still living amongst the humans. And they know that, you know, the one thing that they are certain of is humans are never going to understand what they are. So the first 3 books is just a lead up to, you know, we have to keep this secret. And of course, you always have a group in these books, they're called the Rogues. And they feel like, well, we're the dominant species. Why are we bowing down and trying to be friends? We can just dominate the entire planet. And so they spend the first 3 books, you know, fighting the Rogues, trying to just keep the peace. Look, stop. Don't go out here killing people and snatching people's throats out, because they're going to know that a human didn't do this. Those are the first 3 books. Then we go to the second 3 books, the unveiling, and what ultimately happens with anything that tries to be kept a secret, it comes out. You know, the entire shifter world is unveiled in one night on national television. They see these lion shifters and jaguar shifters climbing out of windows, attacking people, jumping on cars, and all hell literally just breaks loose.
Wow.
Yeah, it was all kinds of crazy. And then I set that in DC because I was like, well, every time they have a destruction scene in the movie, it's always in New York. Like, they're always tearing down New York. So let me just go somewhere else. So I figured, well, let me go to DC. They don't tear down DC enough.
And you wrecked DC, didn't you?
Yeah, just a little bit. Just a little bit.
Awesome. So all of these series, do they contain the same, the mini trilogies along the way? Do they all have the same characters, or? Yes.
So the Awakening and the Unveiling have the same characters. A few more introduced as they go along. There's another trilogy set called The Damaged Hearts, and that was really a new adult stories, really, really focused on the romance, and they were like 20-something shifters being introduced into the shifter world. They were going into training. So those can be read separately, but they are within the same shifter universe.
Okay. So after, I guess, this big showdown, then everyone knows, and then we kind of jump 20 years for this book.
We do. So we jump a few years and we veer off to, so my editor said, you know, we've done cats for a while. Why don't you try wolves? Let's do something with wolves. And I knew that if I did, I still wanted to connect it to the cat shapeshifters. So I did a trilogy with Kate Douglas and Eve Langlis, and it was called The Wolf Mates. And this introduces a pack of lichen werewolves and it just blends in with the shifters. So one of the shifters goes missing at the end of the big showdown, and he shows up. One of the Lycans knows where he is. So that's how I connected the two. And then we jump from that to the 20-year gap for A Lion's Heart.
Okay. And so, being that this is like such a huge jump, you know, you can read this essentially without reading the others.
Yes. Yes.
Okay, well, let's talk a little bit about the characters in A Lion's Heart. Who's obviously the main shifter is a lion, I'm assuming, right?
Yes, okay. Deacon is a white lion who he's been through some things. I like to try and, when I'm writing a story, to weave in some things that are kind of current events, because I think that sometimes, unfortunately, parts of history tends to repeat itself. And so even though I'm writing this world that doesn't actually exist, I just like to kind of show that some of the real world problems that we're dealing with right now, people in these situations can deal with those problems too. So Deacon, he was able to, after the unveiling, he was able to stay above ground and go to the human schools, and nobody detected that he was a shifter. So he went to school and he went into the military, and then he was caught and he was captured and he was held and he was tortured, and so now he's all messed up. But he's back with the shifters, but he's all kinds of confused. So his journey is, through this book, is to figuring out who he is and where he belongs. Okay.
And I'm going to assume that the heroine, Nisa, plays a big role in that.
Yes, she does. He's hired to protect her, and she ends up saving him. So she's the daughter of the shifter assembly leader who started way back in book 1. She's his daughter.
Okay. So what kind of shifter is she?
She's a jaguar.
Oh, okay. A jaguar and a lion. What an interesting mix.
And again, in keeping with some of the current events, one of the things they have to deal with is, their species is not used to interspecies mating. So, one of the things they hate for any of the shifters to mate with humans, which has already happened, so they really have to get used to that. But now you have, because all the shifters are forced to live in this one colony that they've created underground, now they're going to be mingling with each other, and so now they're going to have Nisa and Deacon will be the first mixed couple. Yeah.
I like it. So tell me about Nisa. I love strong heroines. But some people say there's a such thing as too much strong. So tell me about her. How does she jive with him as far as her strength, and where does her strength come from?
She's absolutely strong. She's the only child to the ruler of this entire species. She's been trained to be a fighter. In her mind, she knows that she's meant to lead. And in her interactions with Deacon, what she's going to learn is leading doesn't always mean that you're the one in charge. And so she has to learn how to bend a little, because he'll be the leader. He's the lion, he's the alpha, he will be the leader, whether even in bed and in the end, he's going to be the leader. But she's going to learn that she can rule just as effectively beside him. She doesn't have to be over him. So she's really strong, but she learns this lesson, and he doesn't have to break her to get his point across. You know what I mean? Like, she's going to learn it, she's going to fall, but she's so smart that she knows when she's beaten, and she just says, okay, this is what it is. And this is how this situation is going to be. And I'm going to be okay with it, because this is how we're going to get our species to where we need to be.
So it's going to end up probably being more like a real true partnership instead of...
Right. Mm-hmm. Instead of, I'm the boss.
Right.
Right.
Awesome. So obviously that means that Deacon, as he is a lion, he is very strong-willed as well. Mm-hmm. Is there a lot of fun banter back and forth with them because they're two strong-willed people?
Oh, they were bantering so much. At one point, I was like, okay, look, this is too much. I was like y'all in high school. It's like, let's get something else going here. And so I had to kind of like mix the banter with the sexual tension because they just go at it all the time. And the thing is, because Nisa, her mind is always going, and she knows he's keeping stuff from her. And instead of just beating him down for the answers, instead of saying, look, I can just tell my father, he's the ruler, you can answer me, she's determined she's going to find the answers. And then she's going to let him know that she found the answer on her own, because at this point she's feeling like, she's the better person to lead. Mm-hmm. And it was fun to watch them fighting against each other and at the same time learning about each other. Mm-hmm. and liking those traits. As angry as she made him, he liked those traits about her. He liked that she was brave enough to ignore what he said and go out and go up to the above ground, because they're underground now. That she was brave enough to just go above ground and not wait for him, because that's something that he would have done himself. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So it's about both of them learning. They learn so much about themselves and about their place in the shifter world in this book.
Okay. So what do you like most about the characters you've developed for this book?
I like that they're so different on the outside and the inside. I like that even in their human forms. So Nisa is she's written as an African American woman, and Deacon is written as a white man. They're just so different from every angle, and yet they're just going to mesh. And when they do, it just seems so natural. It seems like they were just created to be together. Mm-hmm. And I like when I get that feeling at the end of a book, because then I feel like, oh yeah, that was right. This is what it was supposed to be. Because a lot of times in the beginning, I don't really know that that's what it's supposed to be. But so I like when I get to the end of the book and I feel that, I feel like, yeah, okay, this was good. This was where they needed to be.
So does this book leave us with a happily ever after?
Yes, absolutely. Get a happy ever after.
Oh, yay. That's so fun sometimes. Like, especially when the couple, they've had a really, really hard go of it. It's like, it's relief a little bit.
Right. And I like that. I like to always end with a happy ever after. People think, I know readers say, well, if everything doesn't tie up, it's not a happy ever after. But it is, because they're happy. This couple right here is happy. Mm-hmm. Somebody in the past might not be happy, or another couple that you've seen throughout the story might not be happy. But this couple right here is happy. And that might not be a wedding or which you think is a traditional happy, but they're happy in where they are right at this moment in this book.
Mm-hmm. And that doesn't mean that, they won't have more conflict should you write more about them, but they can be happy for that moment.
for that moment. And I really, really think that's what, I know happy ever after means ever after, evermore. But I do think it really means happy at that moment, because you really don't know what's going to be tomorrow and next week and next month. So I do really think it should actually be called happy at that moment.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. I agree with you. Because I don't know, how many more books are planned for this go around, or is this just it for this one?
No. So this go around, I really wanted to kind of finish out the Shadow Shifter journey. So right now it's just 2 books. And then the plan after that is to do a spin-off of some of the other creatures that will be introduced in these 2 books.
Okay. Well, that's good, because that means that Deacon and Nisa, while they'll be happy, they will have some other thing to deal with in the next book as you tie up everything. So that's really cool.
Right.
Can you tell me a little bit about, how you decided to go this direction with the series since, I don't know, can you tell us a little bit about the gap? Was there a gap between your writing? Is that what made you kind of do the year gap, or was there something else?
So the last Shifter book was released in 2014. So there has been a gap in the writing. And I just felt like I wanted to move the series in another direction. And the only way to do that and keep the world was to give them some time and some big obstacles that would change the situations they dealt with in the first books. Mm-hmm. And the first books were published through St. Martin's Press, and then these books are going to be indie published. So there's a different tone, there's a different format to the way that the books are written. And I thought the better way to explain all of that change is to give them a huge gap in between. Like, so much has changed in the 20 years. The world, global warming, the way the world looks, the way the world operates. Like, they have no ruling government anymore. And so many things have changed, and all of that sets the tone for these next books.
Do you think these books, starting with this one, do you think the tone is darker now that it's indie published?
It's definitely darker. Definitely darker. There were scenes where I felt it was kind of ominous, like there's an end to everything. And I don't know that I would have been allowed to do that when I was traditionally publishing them. But there was so much more freedom in knowing that this was going to be indie published. And so I could really write this the way I saw it happening, the way I feel like it should happen. Mm-hmm. So it's definitely darker.
Well, you know what? That sounds good to me, because I don't mind. Like, sometimes I read a lot of paranormal romance and urban fantasy, and you can kind of tell sometimes when the author pulls back. You can tell. Mm-hmm. And it's like, they might be going this way, but then it's like, oh no, they took a left turn. Maybe they...
Right. And sometimes I'll say in traditional publishing, it is because you'll do something. Like, there were the first 3 books, I remember my editor calling me after each one and saying the exact same thing. I was like, oh my gosh. She would say that, look, you have to tone these guys down. It's just a little too much. You have to tone them down. I was like, yeah, but they're big bad shapeshifters and they're jaguars and they don't have to be like regular guys. And she's like, no, you got to tone it down. It's too much. Nobody's going to like them like this. And so I did it, but as I'm writing now, I'm not thinking tone anybody down. I'm thinking, if this is what this character is, then this is what he's going to be on paper. Mm-hmm. I read a lot of books, and I don't always like the hero and the heroine in the beginning. And sometimes I get to the end and I still don't really like them. But it doesn't make me not like the book.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, I can still like the story as a whole and be like, yeah, he was still an ass. But I like the whole story.
Right.
Because I think that people are like that in real life. Just because you don't like them doesn't mean they don't have a story.
That is true. So do you think that when she was saying tone them down, I know that they're very alpha men, but what about them did she think that you needed to tone down?
I remember taking out things that they were saying. Like, one time I think she said he would grab the girl too much. Oh, there's too much grabbing going on. It's too much. And that needs to be toned down. Maybe he just touches her. Maybe he asks her to come over. Well, yeah, no alpha jaguar is asking you to do much of anything. And he can love you, but I don't know that he's always asking you.
Yeah.
He's not the way I was writing him. But, I did it because, the book has to pass inspection so it can get published. But it's just not the way I saw it in my mind.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So that had to feel really good, though, to be able to just really let your creativeness go and just do what you want to do with this book.
It did. The words flowed so much easier because I could do things. And when something happened that was different from my outline, it was okay. I had to figure it out. I had to figure out how it was going to play out, but it was okay. And a lot of times when I'm writing, that'll happen. I'll write something in there that wasn't planned, and I'll even say when I go back and read it, yeah, you're going to have to figure out how that plays out. And I'm like, yeah, it'll come when it's time for it to come, and it does. But when you're writing for a traditional publisher and you give them a synopsis, you kind of got to stick to it, because you go off and they've written the blurb to the book already. Now your blurb is different than what's going on in the book, and readers hate that. And so there's so much more, I think, pressure when you're writing traditionally than when you can write indie.
Yeah, I think I agree with you completely. I was talking to quite a few indie authors in the last couple of weeks, and they really do express that that's one of the best reasons to self-publish and go indie.
It is
because it gives you the freedom to do what you want, when you want, how you want, and you can deliver the product the way you see it to your readers. So
now sometimes that does, have a bit of a backlash, because my contemporary series that I started with a traditional publisher too, and then I went to indie publishing that, and there were readers who would write to me and say, well, why can't you just write them like they were before? Because I liked them before. I liked when it was just, and they were series romance books. So they were only like 200 pages, and there were no other points of view. It was only the hero and the heroine, and there were no other side plots. It was just the hero and the heroine. And when I started doing them on my own, I added a lot of suspense, and so other POVs are coming in, and they were like, well, I just like the regular romance better. Can you just write straight romance better? And it's like,
oh,
I can, but that's not really where this is going for me. I'm sorry that you're not following along with it, but this is where it's going for me. But I know had I continued to write it with that publisher, I would have been able to give them the exact same book over and over again.
And I guess that kind of, we're kind of deviating, but I do think that just depends on what you want to do as a writer, because, while you might lose some readers by going in a new direction, you will gain others.
You can, yes. And that's how I like to look at it. Unfortunately, I never want to lose a reader, but I have to write the story the way the story comes to me. I'm never going to be able to write a story that's going to 100% please every single reader. So I just keep looking at it as, well, maybe somebody new will like it. And so if I lose one and I gain one, then I'm still even.
Right. Well, I do like reading paranormal, and I like reading about shifters. So this book sounds very interesting to me. Is there anything else you would like to share about your Shadow Shifter series before we move on to the next topic?
I just like to always say, just give it a try. I know there are a lot of shifters out there. I know, there are a lot of stories. Sometimes people say the paranormal market is glutted, but I always believe that I'm never going to read two books from two different authors with the exact same story.
Right.
But there are always similarities out there, but it's never going to be the exact same story. And you might like one and not like the other, but you won't know until you open it and read it.
So true. Well said. Well, let's talk a little bit about Coastal Magic Convention in this upcoming February. That is what brought us together today.
Yes, ma'am.
So is this your second or third year at CMC?
Second year. Yes.
Second year. Okay.
And I kind of bummed because last year I was sick. So, I didn't want to cancel at the last minute, but I don't think I was able to enjoy it as much as I plan to next year.
Oh, I couldn't tell you were sick. You did a good job covering that up.
Okay, thank you. It was an effort, let me tell you. But thank you.
Well, hopefully this year you'll be able to enjoy yourself a little more and you won't be sick.
I hope so.
Yeah. So even though you weren't feeling that well, what was your favorite thing about it, being that was your first year?
I like to go to events that are more intimate, where I could actually sit at the table and have readers at the table with me, and we can just talk. Like at the luncheon, we just sat at the table with readers and we just talked, and we talked about books and books that they liked and books that we liked. Not necessarily just my books. It wasn't like a pitch session or anything, but we just talked about, what we all had in common that we loved. And I like that. I like that the activities were geared towards readers getting to know authors and authors just interacting with the readers. So that was one of the main reasons why I knew I wanted to come back, because I liked that intimate setting.
Yeah, I agree. Last year was my first year as well, and I was really blown away with how cool everyone was and how it was just zero drama and just fun.
Right,
it was good.
Right. There were no big egos. I've been to events where, there are egos, there are cliques, there's, and if you're not included, you're not included, and that you're not included. But I didn't feel that there. I felt like everybody was included, and everybody, and the readers were just so gracious, and they were so nice about even just accepting new authors, and oh, I've never heard of you, well, tell me about your books, just so open and so friendly. So I really did get a good feeling from it.
That's awesome. I mean, and as a reader, that's one of the perks to go to these kind of conventions, because you will meet several probably new to you authors that you want to start reading because they're awesome people.
Right.
What books are you going to be bringing along this year for the signing? Are you bringing this whole series or just a couple?
So I'll bring A Lion's Heart and the unveiling portion. So that's the previous 3 books in the series. And then I'll have some contemporary stuff. I'll have a new erotica mini series out at that time. So I'll bring that with me too.
Okay, very cool. Well, I look forward to seeing you again in February. You're in the East, right?
Yep, I'm in Maryland.
Okay, because I'm in Michigan, so I don't know about you, but I was pretty excited to get down there in February. And it was 70 degrees. Right. I was loving it.
Exactly. I know we had coats on, winter coats when we left. And I was like, well, we have to put this in a bag and we have to take some shorts and stuff because we're going to Florida. It's not going to be, 30 degrees like it is here. And it was so nice. And that was our first time in Daytona at all. So it was just really nice.
Yeah, I love that area. It was new to me as well. And I found it hilarious how the locals, they're like, oh, it's so cold today. I'm like, what are you talking about? It feels great.
I mean, the one day it was pretty breezy, but it was still really nice, even with the breeze.
Yeah. Well, I love it. I look forward to it again. So
I am too.
All right. So everyone come and check out AC. The links to her books are below. Don't forget to check those out. You can find her on social media. All that stuff is below in the show notes as well. And we are going to finish this off with the lightning round. Are you ready?
Oh, goodness. I was nervous about this. Okay, I'm ready.
Okay. It's really fun. It's 60 seconds, 60 questions, but no worries. No one ever gets 60 questions.
I was going to say, that's a lot of questions.
Yes. Some are book related, some are not. The only rule I have is that if I ask you a A or B question, you have to pick. You can't say neither. You can't say both. You have to pick.
Ooh, the pressure.
I have my little timer here, so I won't go on because I'll go for 3 minutes asking these questions.
No. Way too much.
Oh, I know. Are you ready?
Yeah, I'm ready.
All right, let's do it. Physical books or ebooks?
Physical books.
Hero or villain?
Villain.
Tea or coffee?
Tea.
Name a book that you've read in one sitting.
Daring to Dream by Nora Roberts.
Beer or wine?
Wine.
Name a book that you faked read.
The Odyssey.
Okay. Milk chocolate or dark chocolate?
Dark chocolate.
Where's your favorite place to read?
In bed.
Dogs or cats?
Dogs.
Cake or pie?
Cake.
Early bird or night owl?
Early bird.
What was your favorite book or series when you were a child?
Sweet Valley High.
Oh, yeah. Android or Apple?
Android.
Yes. Name your favorite food.
cheese.
And we are done. See, that was painless.
Oh, that wasn't 60. That was good, though.
It was.
I didn't have any that I didn't answer.
No, you got them all. Yeah, I think I didn't even count. I think you got like 13 of them. 13 done. Yeah, you did great. Well, thank you for doing it. I always love doing that. It's so fun.
That was fun.
Yes, absolutely. Well, thank you so much for joining me today. Is there anything else you'd like to share before we sign off?
Nope, I think that's it. I've told you everything.
All right, awesome. Everyone, don't forget to check out the links below. And tickets are still available for Coastal Magic, so come and hang out with AC. All right, everyone.
Thank you.
All right, take care.
You too.
Thank you for tuning in and downloading today's episode. If you are enjoying the Book Chat episodes and would like to show your support, there are a few things you can do. First, you can head on over to iTunes and give a positive 5-star review. You can follow me on Twitter at Shelf Addiction. You can follow the Shelf Addiction podcast on Spreaker, the only place where you can listen live and get broadcast notifications so that you never miss a live episode. Most importantly, you can share the podcast with friends and family that love books and audiobooks. Thank you for listening, and until next time, happy reading.